this is just one part of the analogy. You know, it didn't include wear and tear. But you think about oftentimes what goes wrong in an engine is they didn't maintain the lubricant, or they didn't put any oil in it. And so one of the questions that I would have is, in a council type of setting, to make it function properly or the way that we want it to, what's the lubricant? How do we do a diagnostic test and see what's wrong, what's going on with so-and-so, or any thoughts on that? Yes, I'm front row here.
I think communication is really important with the instructors, as well as seeing what your students are saying and noticing what the evaluations are showing, but also communicating with all the different instructors and helping them in the environment where they feel comfortable bringing up questions or concerns or ideas.
And you brought up a really good point, is there's so many different points of contact and communication. It's with the students, it's with the other instructors, it's with the technical individuals who are setting up and maintaining courses. So that's a really great point. I saw another hand back here. Same thing. Yes?
There's an issue of trust that needs to be established in honoring respect. And that if that happens, then you'll have the communication, and you also have a system that you can trust. You know, whether it's a spreadsheet or it's a regular meeting, they know that if we get used to the bad, you know, and we get used to that system might work. So I guess I'll just put up with that sound, that clicking sound every time I, you know, turn right. And with our courses, the same too. We know about that typo that it just can't get fixed. So you lose trust in the system. So I guess establishing trust is.
Yeah, you know, so I purposely today, and we'll get to it, I purposely included a quote from the book, The Speed of Trust, written by the Steve Narcotti group. And it just talks about how, you know, each of us are in these leadership roles, and we have to figure out how to extend trust, and we also have to figure out how to trust other individuals. Yeah, Tim in the back.
I have a good friend who loves to build hot rods. He could spend 24/7 doing that. That's what he would spend his time doing. He absolutely loves it. Most of the hot rods he's got a couple that he works on. They probably run about, maybe 15 minutes a month because he's always working on them. At any given time, if you walk in his shop and you said, "Can you turn that one on?" It's like, no, I've got this tore apart. You know what I mean? He's just constantly working on it, which is great for a hot rod. But every once in a while, I think we see course councils that we're so intent on the improvements, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be trying to improve, but sometimes we spend so much time improving, focusing on improving, that we don't really let what's there run for a little bit and see if we can get that going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just pull the hot rod out and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, so I think we in course councils always need to be looking for that sweet spot to where we're making just the right amount of improvement. And it's a steady upward course on improvement that we're not constantly doing.
Great point, Tim. Very good point. Any other thoughts along those lines? So let me show you another clip, if I can figure out how to get to it. And this one is from the same talk, and this is an experience that Elder Ballard had when he was going out and meeting with different ward councils. So apparently he gave them some advice, and then he went out to see how his advice was being implemented into the ward councils. So this was
During training sessions I have conducted in various locations since last October General Conference, I have focused attention on the ward council. As part of that training, I invited the ward council to participate. I gave to the bishop a theoretical problem about an inactive family and asked him to use the ward council to develop a plan to activate the family. Without exception, the bishop took charge of the situation immediately and said, here's the problem, and here's what I think we should do to solve it. Then he made assignments to the various ward council members. This was a good exercise in delegation, I suppose, but it did not even begin to use the experience and wisdom of council members to address the problem. Eventually, I asked the bishop to try again, only this time to solicit ideas and recommendations from his council members before making any assignments. I especially encouraged him to seek the sisters, ask the sisters for their ideas. When the bishop opened the meeting to council members and invited them to council together, the effect was like opening the floodgates of heaven. A reservoir of insight and inspiration suddenly began to flow between council members as they planned for fellowshipping the inactive family.
Okay, so what are some of the good just nuggets of truth and wisdom that we get out of that clip? So the experience was he met with these ward councils, and what was he finding, first of all? What was happening? They hadn't taken his advice very well.
I think the main thing is that they weren't really counseling. They were having kind of like, here's the idea, let's implement it, rather than, well, there might be other ways that could be better.
So they were, a lot of times they just were kind of going through the motions. They were getting together in a meeting and they were kind of going through the motions, but it wasn't necessarily a council type of meeting.
Yeah, Elder Bednar said that there's a notion that the bishop is the only one that can receive revelation in the ward. He's the only one that can receive the revelation for the whole ward, but different people can for their own opinion. And I've seen this. I have been a branch president. I would open that up to people, and they think of things that I never would have thought of.
So, just to kind of think about the context of this a little bit, we've kind of defined a course council as a course lead and an OCR. But is that it? Is that the extent of the course council? Is there a way to extend that and have a similar experience, but finding that sweet spot like Tim was talking about, that we're not opening up the floodgates? Yeah, Angela.
I like to take the online spaces and let my instructors in my group just share any thoughts, ideas, and create discussions on things that matter to them, things that they're seeing and noticing. And it's the same kind of a thing. They always see things that I didn't see, or things that could be improved, that they come up with more innovative ideas for things, and some of them can be implemented, some of them can't be, but it allows them to be a big part of that, generating lots of thoughts and ideas that then can go to the council, having feedback from the team.
Yeah, and we welcome the ideas and we want them, but then there's also this process where things have to be vetted out, and that's true of anytime you get together in a council and you're working in a way that council should be meant to work. You're coming to a consensus. You're vetting out the issues. That's another comment back here. Yeah.
What was going along with that? Of course, I teach. We had a great course lead. It's not course lead anymore. But anyway, they had a meeting like that at Adobe Connect where all the instructors were teaching this course come in and just kind of ask their questions and give their ideas. And the course lead was very open to hearing all that. I mean, it felt like you gave all the instructors a voice. Like sometimes you make suggestions and you don't know where it goes, or if it was even heard, or if anyone cared about it. But it was awesome because they could feel like they were being heard. Maybe they can understand a reason why maybe they couldn't do that, or maybe they, or yeah, we'll try to implement that. And so just meeting everyone together, sometimes that's hard to do, I know. But even just once a semester as a course council, involving all those other sectors.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Back here.
What the sister was just mentioning, going back to the analogy of the engine,
if you know your engine, you know your parts, you can't work on it, you've got a mechanic, and you're putting it to the mechanic, here's where I've got some issues with my engine, the mechanic goes, yeah, and he doesn't do anything about it, you fire the mechanic. He didn't fix anything. For OCRs, we have a survey that we take once every few weeks, and it asks us to place in there any issues in our classroom. We put the issues in there, but then it's very rare that we heard anything back again. So it kind of goes into this nebulous void. And we don't know what happens to this information when it goes off visually. And I think that's where some of the disconnect in this communication happens. Yes, we pointed out that there were specific problems with the engine, and the mechanic said, yep, and that's it. That's what it is.
You know, and that's good feedback to have, because I would also include that, you know, even though we have designated course councils, I would say that we're a big part of that as well, and maybe we are the mechanics. And I think it goes all the way around. We have to get better. We've talked about communication, but we have to get better at identifying our diagnostic tools. And it might be, one of them might be what you just referred to. One of them might be the evaluation piece that we're doing. One of them might be the feedback that we're getting from students. You know, we also are continuing to build and grow our online community piece for instructors and students. And so there's lots of different ways. Sometimes, you know, you think about older cars that didn't have an electronic diagnostic tool. And, you know, you'd be down there with a timing light, or you pull out a spark plug to see if you had compression. And there are many different ways to diagnose what was wrong. And that's one thing that we definitely have to get better at as well.
Hey, Brian, can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
I just want to encourage, though, that those are thoroughly filled out, because they're not just into the cloud. I look at those, and other people do as well, and we're getting better at trying to spot problems. We had a small victory last semester where we had all kinds of data coming in, qualitative, quantitative, and we came across a comment that was made in the class, and it was really kind of struck us strange. We talked about an angry squid, and for some reason this person mentioned they felt like an angry squid because of this, and it caught our eye. And that led us to start looking into this problem, and it turned out probably was something we could do. And so we went in and we were able to help provide a solution for that. So even though you might feel every 3 weeks you're filling out these things, nobody reads this stuff, nobody does anything, it does go somewhere. People do look at it. It just takes us a little while, the 1,000 instructors and the 20,000 students typing out responses and surveys. It takes a while to go through, and it's something we're trying to get better at. And I think we are getting better at it. 8, 9 years ago, we didn't even have an online program. And so we are evolving and getting better at using the data that we have. So please continue to fill those out. We do look at those, and hopefully they will be beneficial in the end for you.
So to kind of wrap this up, and then we're going to turn some time over to our course leads to talk about their experience and what's worked well, and this idea of how are we to grow and continue to have this connection into campus. And I just want to show the last part of his talk, where he talks about when we finally get it, when we finally realize how to do this, what does success look like, and why is this so important?
When stake presidents and bishops allow the priesthood and auxiliary leaders whom the Lord has called to serve with them to become part of a problem-solving team, wonderful things begin to happen. Their participation broadens the base of experience and understanding, leading to better solutions. You bishops, energize your ward leaders by giving them a chance to offer suggestions and to be heard. You prepare future leaders by allowing them to participate and to learn. You can lift much of the load from your shoulders through this kind of involvement. People who feel ownership of a problem are more willing to help find a solution, greatly improving the possibility of success. Once the appropriate councils are organized, the brethren and the sisters have full opportunity to contribute. Ward and state leaders can move beyond just maintaining organizations. They can focus their efforts on finding ways to make their world a better place to live. Certainly, ward councils can consider such subjects as gang violence, child safety, urban blight, or community cleanup campaigns. Bishops could ask ward councils, how can we make a difference in our community? Such broad thinking and participation in community improvement is the right thing for Latter-day Saints to do. For the past 8.5 years, I have served as a member of a council of 12 men. We come from different backgrounds, and we bring to the council of the 12 apostles diverse assortment of experiences in the church and in the world. In our meetings, we do not just sit around and wait for President Howard W. Hunter to tell us what to do. We counsel openly with each other, and we listen to each other with profound respect for the abilities and experience our brothers bring to the council. We discuss a wide variety of issues, from church administration to world events, and we do so frankly and openly. Sometimes we discuss issues for weeks before reaching a decision. We do not always agree during our discussions, but once a decision is made, we are always both united and determined. This is the miracle of church councils, listening to each other and listening to the Spirit. When we support one another in church councils, we begin to understand how God can take ordinary men and women and make of them extraordinary leaders. The best leaders are not those who work themselves to death, trying to do everything single-handedly. The best leaders are those who follow God's plan and counsel with their counsels.
Okay, so I hope that kind of sets the mood for the discussion part. And just one thing that I thought of while I was watching this is our focus is teaching and learning, and we're trying to provide great opportunities and experiences for our students. But I hope that you'll realize as you work with one another as individuals that we're also trying to provide growth opportunities for each other as the course lead, as the OCR, as the other instructors, and hope that you'll consider that as you think about what makes good counsel and why would I give more responsibility or less responsibility, or maybe opportunities for growth for one another, because it is, our focus is oftentimes on the students, but us as individuals, that's part of what makes this fun, is that we're growing, we're learning, we're having a good experience, and we feel like we're engaged in building the kingdom of God here upon the earth. And part of that is our own growth and potential for that. And Bart, you had a comment, and then we're going to turn it over to the course lead.
I have a very good relationship with the on-campus course lead. I feel like when I talk to the other instructors and get good feedback, and I direct it to him, and we try to improve. I don't know what to do on my 3-week and 6-week and these different to Kara. What would you have me direct to her versus what I'm directing to the on-campus course lead?
Anybody have any thoughts on that? Did you hear that? I'm going to give Bart the microphone.
I'm thinking of the experience of how we're going to make improvements is when we come back to the course council. And I'm trying to understand your role and Kara's role, how this fits together.
So for this part, I'm going to be walking the microphone around, and so it's got a response to your question.
I'm one of the OCR managers that looks over those surveys that we get. And if your course is going well, we'd like to know why. We're looking for patterns that can make all of the course experiences really effective. And so if you've got a really good relationship, we would love to know, how did you develop that? How did that, you don't have to go into great detail, but highlight some of the good things that are happening so we can try to reproduce those in some of the courses that may not be having as much success. And that would be really useful information for us to have, not just the books.
I've got another mic right here too.
I think since the time is running short on us, I think we would like to hear a few words, if that's okay, Brian, Scott, and Daniel. These are course leads who we invited to share some time with us this morning because we've seen good things happening within their council, and it looks like they're having success. And so I'd like to turn the time over to any of you for a minute or two to see what you'd like to share with us, what advice you'd have to OCRs on how to improve that relationship, how to work well, what's worked for you in the past, maybe what hasn't worked so well. So if any of three of you would like to start, we would love to hear directly from the course lead. But not everybody at once. So. This is Brian Bennett.
I need to leave in just a second because I've got a class starting, so I'll hurry. Just going off of Elder Valor's comments, he was talking about organization and leadership. It helps to understand that every course that's being taught is part of a program. Those programs are part of a department here on campus. And if the department isn't taking full responsibility for the courses, no matter where they're taught, it's going to be a difficult situation. I'm a little bit surprised that course leads and OCRs don't always meet at least once a week online. I know we do that, and Doug and I talk quite frequently, and the same for the other faculty. We meet once a week as a group of faculty to talk about one particular course. It had to go through a pretty extensive overhaul last semester. This semester's been nice. It's we are killing students off, so it's just been pleasant. But that communication is critical, and the course lead / program buy-in to the online courses working effectively is also very important. And for that to happen, communication is key. So if I would have a recommendation, lay the groundwork to meet with your online, with your on-campus representatives. I don't know if that's possible. I know it should be happening. Those are some thoughts that I have. Does anyone have questions for me in the next 2 minutes?
How would you recommend we go about approaching the course lead to get them more involved?
I would be blunt. I don't know, in each department if that's possible, but I would say, hey, in order for this course to, these courses to produce the students that would be representative of your program, we need a feedback. You and I need to meet more often than we can, and you might need to even, talk to them and the department chair to help that to happen. But it does need to happen. I don't know if that helps, but from your position, doing your best to make it happen would be very beneficial to the course and to the program. So.
Can you share with us what the department expectations are for course leads? I know what they are for me as an OCR, but I don't know that I'm aware of when someone's assigned to be a course lead, what does that add to their plate, and what is the department expecting them to do?
Okay. This is going to be different from department to department from what I've understood. I know in our department we've decided that a course lead is given a teaching load to take care of managing the course, and so it's part of our teaching assignment. That's important for us because, to be frank, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for me, it's a lot of work for my colleagues to help make sure that these online courses are working where you need them to for our program. I don't think it's consistent across campus, but in our particular case, there's some contractual expectation because we're giving teaching load to make sure that these classes work. And our job is just to make sure that the students going through the online experience and the students going through the on-campus experience are meeting the outcomes for those courses, that they're able to do what we say this course will allow them to do as they go through it. An online educational experience is a difficult one to have for a lot of students, and making it as fruitful as possible for them does take a lot of work, and so we're engaged in that. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Okay.
What course, what program do you?
We've got in our program, this is the graphic design program in the art department, we've got currently 5 courses online. Is that correct, Scott? In graphic design, we've got a couple of other art courses in the department, but under our program, the graphic design program, we've got 5 courses. The one I'm talking about specifically, the one that Doug is involved in is Art 130. So it's an introduction to graphic design course, and a lot of different programs on campus intersect with that course. And so we're teaching what? We've got 3 online sections. Right? 3 online sections this semester, which is down a little bit, which we're grateful for, and 3 on-campus sections. Okay, I need to sit down.
I'm Scott France, and I'm in the art department. I'm the on-campus person for a typography class and a graphic design class. And with this whole analogy of the engine, I think that one of the things that the on-campus person is responsible for is the navigation. And if you think, and if you know anything about Google Maps and Apple Maps, if you really need to get somewhere, you want to go to Google Maps. Because Apple Maps will end you up somewhere else. But sometimes I feel like as the navigator, I feel as on-campus person, I write a class, I get it ready to go, and I turn it out there, and I'm blind. I need my OCR, I think is the right term. I need my OCR to let me know whether we're going in the right direction. Because I don't have feedback. My classes are visual classes where students make visual things, and I don't see it at all. So, and also, at least from my perspective, I'm a prototyper. I'm someone that likes to make something and then look at it and see, does it work or does it not work? And then I can make an analysis on that. But if I don't get feedback from instructors, I don't have any idea. I don't know what's going on. And so if we're navigators and the instructors are the drivers and the online structure is the mechanics, we all need to work together in order to make sure that we can get where we're going. Now, one thing that has worked really well for us, I don't meet with my online people every week. We've got classes that are working and going, but we do have an online site where I can get content, we can discuss content information. And we use it's called Wikio, it's part of Brightspace. And at any time during someone can start a discussion, and they can send it and say, the students are having difficulty understanding this concept, we get a video here. Or, yes.
Can you repeat that again? Wikio?
Wikio, W-I-G-G-I-O, I think is what it is. It's free, it's easy to set up. My wife uses it to do, it's a really pretty cool program, but it's intended to collaborate. It's just a program for collaboration. And there's lots of different ones out there that are available. But super easy to set up, and I can set up a course, and my instructors are small enough that I interact with all of the instructors as well as the OCR. And then the OCR instructors will work together if there's specific problems. But I deal with the content of the course, not necessarily all of the function of the course and things like that. I think one of the things that I think of my responsibility, I had my very first experience with an online instructor. My expectation was that I had created a class that someone was going to babysit, and I didn't know what was going to happen with it. Then my first instructor was awesome. She was wonderful. She jumped in, she took care of the course, she took care of the students, she cared about the students. As I talked to her, one thing I discovered that was wonderful is that she felt as engaged in her position dealing with students 9 to 12 hours a week as I felt in my position engaging students full time. And that was enlightening to me. And so I often have discussions with online instructors to help them understand how important they are in the lives of the students that we have. Our students are wonderful. BYU-Idaho students is a wonderful group that self-selects to come here. And we all have a responsibility to help each of them be successful in their classes. Then I had an experience where an instructor wasn't engaged, because that didn't work so well. So I've discovered that I have to, like on campus, if we have an adjunct on campus, I don't go in their class every week. I don't watch their class all the time, make sure it works. We get them, we trust them, and we let the class go. And so, as much or as little contact as they need. I kind of rambled a little bit there. Is there any questions or?
Thank you very much. Last comments from Daniel Baird in the math department.
Hey Steve, I think we have a question over here.
I just had a question. You mentioned that when an instructor had a question about content that the students weren't understanding, that they would talk to you. I guess it's my understanding that a lot of instructors will search out material, or a lot of times they'll bring in their own thing. What would you suggest? Would you suggest rather to come to the course lead and ask for those things instead of building our own thing? Does that make sense?
It does. I recommend that you participate in the classes if you were teaching the class. Find resources, create resources, and then share them with the other instructors. So it isn't, I don't think that you need to wait for the instructor to make content for you. We write these online classes. I never taught an online class. I don't know what's good and bad. We really need feedback. We need lots of feedback for what is most effective for you and how. And then we need to make sure we're meeting the objectives.
Thank you. Daniel, do you want to take the last?
Sure thing. So I'm the course lead over the Pathway Math course, and to introduce my comments, when I started teaching high school, I'd come from teaching college, and I wanted a high school experience, so I became a high school teacher. And going from the college experience back to high school, there were a few things where I'm like, ow, what are you doing? This is nuts, are you crazy? And I went and vented to my father about this. And he's like, you really ought to learn the program before you try to change it. And why would I do that? But I didn't, because it's been built for years and years, and for whatever reasons, I needed to know why they were doing what they were doing before I could profitably do that. And then when I came up here, I got into a department with some excellent teachers, and they were nothing like me. And I took that same advice. I'm like, okay, what is their program? Even though it isn't what I've been doing exactly, and I've had a lot of success with what I've been doing. What is their program, and how can I make it better? And then add my own to it. Well, I have to tell you, as my OCR is right over here, well, one of them, and I have to tell you what I feel from her that makes the course council run really well. I believe she's a great math teacher, and if she had built a course, it would look different. It would look very different. But she has taken all of her energy and her talents and her attention to detail and made the course that I created as good as it can be, as opposed to making it compete with her ideal of what a course would look like. So that's one thing, advice that I would give to the OCRs. If you come in and try to change the course lead's class, well, it's their baby. You're up there, it's on a chopping block, and I know that our class this last time had 3,500 students in it, just for the domestic. And we had about, 1,000 or so international. So there are about 4,500 students that see that, and about 100 instructors. And if you ever want to really get humbled really fast, take your last gospel doctrine lesson, videotape it, and then let 100 different people point out every little place you could have done something different. It's a tough situation. The course leads are not just up there, I'm in charge, I'm going to make the decisions, and oh yeah, we're not going to pay attention to the OCRs. But this is something where they put a lot of time and energy into it. And when the OCR takes the attitude of, how can we make what you have created, though it may not have been what I would have done, how can we make that the best? Because the course lead has tried to mimic and meet the on-campus objectives as near and as close as they can with the other environments and conditions that they've been given. So that was the first one. The second one that I would suggest is, Angela has opinions, and I have opinions, and she is one of my favorite people to disagree with. Not because I don't like her opinions, but because of how she disagrees with me. When I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, that's not even important. She's like, well, the instructors are saying this, the students are saying this. The thing that we agree on completely is that the course should be designed for students to succeed. And we do, and there are some things where she doesn't get to make the decision. I'm like, I have to keep in line with the Math 100B course on campus. Or, no, we're not going to change that in the test because the Math 100A course on campus has a similar thing, we're not going to move it. But when we disagree, it's because we're both trying to get to that same point. And then, yeah, she'll do that. She'll be like, all right, let's try it. She'll take what I say and she'll be like, aha, I can see what you are intending. Could we do it this way to meet the concerns that I'm talking about? And the end product, again, may not be what she would have envisioned if she were the course lead and I were the OCR, but she has made that vision as good as it could possibly be in her view, if that makes sense. So those are the two main things. Learn this program the course lead is done, and then before you try to change it. I will get suggestions from instructors all the time. Man, what are you doing in this section? I just steep in little change this and change this. And I'll have to send back to them, the objectives of the course are this, and what you're suggesting is far beyond the objectives of the course, or clear off onto the side, and so we're not able to implement that change. And it's apparent that they're looking at the course through the lens of what their ideal, if they were to have created it, is. And so learn the course, learn it well, and why the course lead has chosen what they've chosen, and then try to make that the very best you can. And just like if the roles were reversed, I would hope that I would be able to do that for Angela as well. So those are the two things. Questions for me?